Alright, so just wanted to run through today explaining why mobility is the number one key to you achieving your goals in your fitness and in your health and to get the best outcomes out of all the training. And to run through that, we want to explain the concept of the movement hierarchy. Now, if you had a look at the 10 tips, you would have seen this towards the end, where we really look at the key concepts that underpin how we go through movement and how we best acquire the traits that allow us to perform at our best. So firstly, and it's important to note that this is a pyramid type structure, and if you look at the kind of 10 tips guide, you see mobility is the biggest at the top, and then we go down to stability, motor control, and finally strength. Now this is something that's very often not considered by most fitness trainees. So what we have here is mobility at the top. Now I've put mobility and stability into some real life examples so we can get an idea of what they actually look like in our day-to-day training. And this is something that often gets confused. So essentially, what mobility and stability both get expressed as most often is feelings of tightness, a lack of range of motion, or what is often referred to as flexibility. Now I put that in bunny ears because flexibility encompasses simply how our body perceives tightness. It doesn't actually mean what most people think it means, which is our range of motion of our muscles. It's what our body allows us into, not necessarily the actual size of the muscle itself. Now, this is a really crucial distinction between mobility and flexibility. So firstly, we go through mobility, and this is what we focus most on in the beginnings of the mobility program, or the freedom program. Then we look at stability. Now this is a poorly understood concept because stability oftentimes is what allows us to experience usable range of motion or mobility. So in this context, we're talking about an actual restriction in the joint. Most of the time what people have or perceive as mobility is not this. It's more stability. The best example we go through is why most people have tight hamstrings is because they lack stability in the front side of their pelvis and torso instead of actually lacking mobility. So this is where stability comes into play. Now if we're not stable at a joint above or below a certain joint, then we will actually lose mobility as a result. This is how the body works in a kinetic chain. So these get manifested as these things that we experience a lot. And this is where most people are sitting. They have some form of tightness, a lack of range of motion, or perceived lack of flexibility. And so therefore, they try to jump up into this strength or motor control area, and they fall flat on their face. They get injured, they suffer from rotator cuff injuries, hip impingements, pain, tightness, soreness, all of the above. And we see this in CrossFit all the time. Rampant shoulder injuries, trying to do things that are above the capacity that we have at the moment. And now we're not saying that you can't train hard while having limitations in your mobility or stability, but you have to intelligently work around it and know how to work with it properly. So then we go to the next layer, and that's motor control. Now in an ideal world, we would have appropriate mobility or lack of restriction and adequate stability, and then we would work on our motor control. Now the example I use is skilled performance. All that all skilled performances are is a message from our brain to our body to control the motor system, which is our muscles. This is, say for example, our squat or snatch. Being able to perform that in a coordinated, precise manner is a skilled performance. Now this absolutely requires full mobility and stability to be able to be done. Because if we cannot get into the positions that our joints require of us, then there's no way we will be able to perform a skilled performance because the brain will not be able to compute exactly what's going on. And then finally, after we've achieved skill, then we can achieve strength. Now, this is our heavy lifting, what everyone wants to jump straight into. And what we see with most athletes and most CrossFitters and most people that go to the gym is that they disregard all of these steps and go straight for strength. And that is why we must consider the movement hierarchy and what a mobility structured approach has to offer. So, as always, keep moving, stay mobile, and live free.